Hello, YouTube. I'm going to try to do something that I have not seen on the internet before, and that is a critique of the multi-level marketing company, the MLM called Optavia, without criticizing their product and service offerings. Now, having said that, because of those offerings, Optavia is the most hated, or perhaps the second most hated, if you throw in Amari, the wellness company, mental health awareness company. There's a lot of badness to spread around in the MLM world. But like I said, even though there's very good reason to attack Optavia, we're going to critique them without actually critiquing the product or service. And it's because we are able to see under the hood, as it were. It is a publicly traded company, and we can see the numbers. We can see why it's such a lousy so-called business opportunity. And it comes down to this slide, which I apologize for the formatting. On the y-axis, that is up and down. On the left, that is the number of distributors, and on the right is the year. And obviously, years don't have decimal points, but what I want you to see, and we're going to show this graphically later on, that there has been a precipitous drop in the number of coaches in Optavia, and that is a sign that Optavia as a business opportunity is fading out and fading out fast. Now, why? What is driving it? It's multifaceted. I would say, based on my reading, that the prevalence of GLP-1 agonists is the major disruptor, leading to recruitment weakness. There are many others. There's the natural life cycle of an MLM. There are the sort of atmosphere, cultural atmosphere surrounding MLMs. But what's driving this one down quickly is that people have discovered something else in the form of a needle, which can help you lose weight. The result of which, whatever the reasons, is that churn has accelerated and recruitment has declined. It is really bottoming out. And another thing that these publicly available filings are able to show us is that the earnings per coach are also going down. So there are fewer coaches, and the ones who are left aren't making that much money. The products, if you want to call them that, are replaceable with other products. That's one thing. They don't have anything unique. And in any case, as I've already pointed out, GLP-1 is reducing the need. And as my colleagues in this space have shown much more graphically and effectively than I can, the products that Optavia sells taste nasty. So I mentioned before that there is a natural narrative momentum to any MLM life history trajectory, if you will. One problem that Optavia has had is a lack of social virality, which has happened with some of the others. I think that the FinTech, the iGenius, IM Academy, B Club, sort of had their narrative that shot some of them to the top, and Optavia never really happened, and they never really had a strong recruiting hook, or if they did, it was very brief because other events in the history of the world overtook them. Nevertheless, they are pivoting now from strictly speaking weight loss or mindset around food to something called metabolic balancing, which is bullshit. I'm sorry if your children are watching this. In terms of their financial strengths, it must be said in their defense, so-called, they have no debt and they've got a cash cushion. This also happens to be the case with iGenius. I'm not sure that this really suggests that the business is strong, because what are you going to do with all that cash if you've got nobody to move your product? And now I want to show you why I believe that Optavia may be singularly in poor shape by doing an apples to apples comparison between Herbalife and USANA. Now, the year 2014 for Herbalife is the year of their peak recruitment, and the same for USANA in 2016. But look how steep the decline is. This is in absolute numbers on the left, on the y-axis, absolute numbers of distributors, and years after the peak at the bottom. Look how much steeper the yellow line is for Optavia. And here it is. I think this form is a bit easier to understand because we're going to show if on the far left we've got 100% being the peak and years after the peak on the x-axis, look how quickly Optavia has been dropping off compared to Herbalife and USANA from their peak. Now, what can we expect in the future? I'm trying to paint the happiest face on this that I can. If this pivot to metabolic balance takes off, the number of distributors may in fact go up, but the other scenarios are much more likely. In other words, if they're able to stop the bleeding, so to speak, they may drift up slightly over time, over the next 3 years. But what's most likely is that they're going to continue this contraction scenario, which is going to drive them into failure. And I put a weighted scenario of expectations in thick yellow. Well, Optavia is in a high-risk contraction phase. They are churning much more rapidly than they're recruiting and doing so faster than their cohorts in the space. And their chance of rebounding, despite this latest bid, in my opinion, is very low. Folks, your skills, knowledge, and experience are way too valuable to waste in an MLM. That's all I got. I'll see you in the next one.